Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson, which is my latest reread in my journey to reread everything Cosmere before the release of Stormlight Archive 5. So, personally, this is my favorite of the secret projects, which is it seems to be a hot take. There's very few people on booktube who seem to like Yumi, like this book, much as even consider their favorite of the secret projects. But it is what it is. Like, I feel like this book really it really shows just how much Sanderson has developed as a author in terms of his ability to write character driven stories, particularly romances. Like that has historically been a very a pressure point for him, and this book he proved that he can write a good one. But yeah, what is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter about? So Yumi is a yokihijo, an artist capable of summoning spirits. And these spirits are basically used to power society, which is like in a pre-industrial phase basically. Her world is one of sunlight with extreme heat, and of course an ecosystem that has adapted to this extreme temperature. Nikaru, on the other hand, is a nightmare painter in a world that's constantly shrouded in darkness, and it's a world where these nightmares essentially manifest, and his job as a nightmare painter is to deal with them. His world is much more modern. It more resembles a modern day society than and somehow or the other, a bond forms between these two people who seem to be on separate planets, and they need to, as they start to, as this connection grows strong and stronger between them, they need to figure out why they were connected in the first place and what they can do to resolve the situations that each other is facing in their various worlds. So, it's that's the basic premise, and at its core. This book is essentially a romance novel, specifically of the enemies to lovers variety, because these two people, completely different contexts, are essentially bonded, and they and you know there's quite a bit of misunderstanding and confusion and conflict that essentially starts up before they start to basically become a team and start addressing the problems that they face. It kind of helps that they're people who, as much as they at initial glance they seem to be so completely different, they have quite a few similarities between them that allow them to bond on a different level. And that was one of the things that really struck me as I read through this book. Like, as the book played out more and more, and these characters would slowly develop more and more. Like, there are so many similarities and differences that you could pinpoint exactly between them. Like, I think if I'd kept a list going through the book, I could have easily picked out 12 to 15 different things that were just highlighted in different moments or in different lines over the course of this book. It was that intricately handled, and it wasn't anything that shoved in your face. It's just as the story progressed and the situation played out, and we see their different reactions to what happens. We see these different traits in them that it goes to show just like how deep the character work went on this. But anyway, so Yumi she's an artist pretty much at the peak of her power. Like, she's able to push herself to go well above and beyond anything that is typically demanded of someone in her role, and she's able to essentially work perform her art at a level very rarely seen by other artists in her. Like, she's essentially at her peak. On the other hand, you have Nikaru, who he lost that passion, he lost that flair, and he's essentially being churning out. He's basically become like almost like a jobber, just doing his tasks by rote, churning out his paintings by rote, and he's lost that passion, that spark, that interest. So he's almost at the nadir of his of his career, and it's a stark contrast between them. But one of the major similarities between them is that they do have a deep passion for their for they do have a deep passion for their role in terms of contributing to their society, to making it better, to making it that much more robust, to contributing to the betterment of this society, basically. And it's one of the common threads that essentially allows them to start bonding, and then it just kind of steamrolls from there as we slowly see, even if it's not necessarily obvious to them, all these similarities that I mentioned that they have. And they have it's always small. It's multiple different small things. Like another glaring one is just the personalities that they have. Like Yumi, she's led a very closeted, a very restricted life due to the heavily ritualized nature of her role. Whereas Nikaro, he's more of a loner, solitary. He's pretty much almost like a loser, in the way that he lives his life, and he that kind of solitude is just one of the many common traits that it's presented to us very differently, but it's just one of the many common traits that they have between them. But yeah, there's that. And then there's another thing that I really enjoyed about this book was just this setting. So like, as this story unfolds, it's more and more clear that these books are, they're heavily inspired. Like Yumi's world is inspired by Korean culture, and Nikaro's is inspired by Japanese, and like who doesn't love that kind of stuff, right? It, it it's kind of hard to describe how much I enjoyed that, and as the book played out, it's not just inspired by these words. As the book played out, like there are some scenes that I saw in here that, like if you're an anime fan, they're almost anime tropes, you can say. Like there's the inevitable festival scene, there's the inevitable bathroom scene with a little splash of etchiness, you can say. All these things kind of play out in this book. So like this book is very much a homage to that sort of culture. Like for me at least, like these are the influences that I picked out. What else can I say about this book? Similar to Tress of the Emerald Sea, by the way, this book is narrated by none other than our good friend Hyde. And it's done like third person omniscient, but similar to Tress of the Emerald Sea. Like we frequently get interjections of Hyde's thoughts and on different things as they happen. And of course the man himself makes an appearance in here. And similar to Tress, we find him in a very amusing point in his life, basically, in terms of his role. And we do get to see yet another one of the many skill sets that this particular Renaissance man has managed to accrue during his time hopping around the Cosmere. And that's another thing. Like this book, there are some heavy Cosmere ties here and there. Like similar to Tress, we have a random character who is like very knowledgeable of the Cosmere and isn't afraid to just drop knowledge bombs on the main character, whether they know or understand what they're listening to. So that's another tool that is very similar between the books. What else? There's that. In terms of like the overall plot, like I kind of enjoyed the way that the book we just kind of bounced around between these two scenarios as these two people tried to solve the situation that first of all figure out why they were even bonded, and then just try to solve the situation that each is confronted with, and as the book progresses and things get a little more tense, a little more escalated, it all culminates in a very weird place. Like the ending of this book, honestly, I'm still, like, I've read this book twice now and I'm still not sure how I feel about the ending. It feels very, very out there, which once again For me, it just feels almost like an anime ending. But yeah, like that's not necessarily a bad thing. I should think. But you know, overall, it was, for me at least, it was a really good story. Like the this is one of those stories where it's more journey before destination. Like I enjoyed spending reading about these two characters as as their relationship unfolded, and I don't know, I just enjoyed this more than any other Sanderson book I could think in recent memory. You know, before this reread, I was saying a lot that, oh, I think this would be a good starting place for anyone who wants to try Sanderson mainly as a standalone. But now having read it, I think that I don't think this would be a good place, mainly because of the Cosmere tie-ins that happen. Um, I think for standalone, I would have to say the best place to start is Elantris or Warbreaker, one of the two. Go right back to the beginning when you didn't have all this Cosmere stuff to deal with. Um, but yeah, that's, you know, like I said, it's pretty impressive to see how much Sanderson has grown as an author in terms of writing relationships, and I think that only bodes well for the future of his writing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.